Yeah.
Can you explain the questions that was in assignment?
Okay. Okay. Can you guys see my screen?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. The question was that. So suppose we are. Let's take not this here. Say Tendulkar. Okay. So suppose this is this is your corpus. Okay, or this is your dictionary. So in this, suppose I have the word Tendulkar. Okay, so now if I have to design embedding, sorry, if I have to design a embedding matrix for this, then I have to, what I said, that it is always a prediction of a sequence. Prediction of a sequence becomes the problem definition of defining a embedding matrix. Like if the problem, if the sequence is like this, last 4 words, or so this one, latter in his career. So these are the 4 words which came before Tendulkar. So what we will do is we will take all these 4 word embeddings in one hot vector, multiply it with the embedding matrix which is initialized randomly, get the embedding matrices of each, feed into a neural network, and try to predict the word Tendulkar. And when you do this, there will be error. So maybe we predicted the word civilian. So now civilian and Tendulkar are also part of this vocabulary. So Tendulkar is also having a one hot encoding and civilian is also having a one hot encoding. So the difference between Tendulkar and civilian is the error that happened. Now this error is back propagated in the neural network and also the embedding matrix to balance the to reduce the error. Next time again when we use this and predict this one, then maybe we get a word which is Indian, not civilian. So if we subtract between Indian and Tendulkar, maybe the difference of the error will be reduced. I'm just taking an example. Not necessarily Indian and Tendulkar are very close, or civilian and Tendulkar are far away. I'm just taking an example. Maybe we predicted Indian, and now we find the error, and it is less than what happened with civilian. Now again back propagate this error. Again we do the same thing. So there will be a time when we will consistently predict Tendulkar by using these 4 words. And that is the point we will tell that at least for the word Tendulkar, we have trained the model. Similarly, there will be all words that will be trained. I just gave you an example of the iterations of Tendulkar. Now, the choice of what should be the sequence prediction is what made the difference in this entire process. Like I took these 4 words and I felt that Tendulkar can be conveniently predicted just by the 4 words. But it might be a case that we need more words. So like we need 6 words or 7 words. So in this case, the window will be 7 words on the left side of Tendulkar. So this is also a sequence prediction, but the problem definition of the sequence, you changed it. You didn't say that now it is only 4 words. You said it is 7 words. So now you change the problem definition. Okay. Maybe you also see that not only the left side 4 words, but also the right side 4 words are important. So later in his career and was a part of the. So both taken together is more giving us more good embeddings for Tendulkar, which is very fast we can. So here maybe only in later in career we took this first left side 4 words, maybe in 10 iterations it started to predict Tendulkar. But when we took both the sides, this side and this side, maybe in 5 iterations it started to predict Tendulkar. So what happened? The embedding training become faster, and we also got better embeddings. Okay. Now why this type of philosophy? Why the philosophy of taking 4 words and predicting another word? It is all because the person Mikolov et al., who thought about word embeddings, his main core concept was that whenever something is a natural language written in English or Spanish or Japanese or whatever, there is the context of a particular word can be discovered by its neighboring words, right? So suppose I'll give you an example of a newspaper, right? So suppose you are reading about a news and your eyes just have got 1 second glimpse of the article. Suppose there is a news article and you got 1 or 2 seconds of glimpse of the article. You did not get chance to read the entire article. So you just got a glimpse of 1 or 2 seconds. So you saw few keywords from the article, and then you were able to, at least 70%, you were able to predict the context of the article, right? So suppose if this photo is not there in the same article, this photo is not there, you just got a 1 or 2 seconds of time to see the entire article from here to here. Okay, so you Rajiv Gandhi Khel Ratna, Viv Richards, Bharat Ratna, just you saw these 3-4 words. So from this you thought that okay, this is about some great cricketer. Now you did not predict it is about Sachin Tendulkar, but you predicted it is about a very great cricketer. So that means what? With 1 or 2 seconds of glimpse, you saw some neighboring words and you are able to tell that this is about cricket and this is talking about one cricketer who got Rajiv Gandhi Khel Ratna, Bharat Ratna, and also maybe played with Vivian Richards, maybe something like that. So you got the idea that okay, this is about a famous cricketer. But if you get 4 or 5 seconds, then you may be able to tell, oh, this is about Tendulkar. So this is how human mind works, right? So he also applied the same logic here, that if I have to create a vector for Tendulkar, then that vector should be predicted by last 4 words, or there are many rules that I said, right? Last 4 words, last and left and right 4 words, 7 words, or skip gram model. Skip gram means only 1 word, Carrier and Tendulkar. Or suppose we tell the skip gram model tells what? If the window is say 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So if the window is 11, then only choose one of that word from that 11 words. So maybe batsman. I chose only batsman. Okay, instead of choosing all the 11 words, I chose only batsman and tried to predict Tendulkar. Okay, so this is called skip gram model. So there are many ways of doing this, right? But the core concept lies that few words neighboring the original word will be able to predict the original word. This is the core concept, because this is a language. It has a grammar, it has a context, it has a story behind it which it tries to tell, right? So when there is something story, then there is a sequence, and when there is a sequence, we can do prediction. But now when we come to a bank statement, okay, now we come to a bank statement, something like this. This one is good. Something like this. Still, if you get 1 or 2 seconds of glimpse at this, you will be able to tell that okay, it is about a bank statement or a invoice or a report card. You will tell, not because you saw few words and you made it. It is because of the format. The format, the tabular format in which it is written, and it is very well-known format to your eyes. because you have been seeing bank statement invoices a lot. So when you see this, that format matches your brain's prediction, and you tell that, okay, this is an invoice or a bank statement or a report card. But if I show this to some person who in his life has never seen a bank statement or a report card or invoice or any tabular data, he cannot make out this is about what. Okay, maybe he will see account summary, $100, and he will tell that this is something related to finance, but he won't be able to tell this is a bank statement or, because that pattern is not there in his mind. So here the complete definition of predicting a word changes from sequence to pattern, right? So when we were reading about this was about the sequence. We couldn't tell this is about Tendulkar or cricketer because the paragraph structure. The paragraph structure didn't give us any help to predict what kind of document this is. But here, the paragraph structure, the tabular structure of the data gave us a better idea. Okay, so now the both are NLP problems, natural language problems. But in here, we were using this sequence prediction method. But if we use here sequence prediction method, it won't work, right? You also know that it won't work. So what should be my problem statement? Once we have a problem statement, that the problem statement here was what? Pick up a random word, take from the left side, take 4 letters, put it through the embedding matrix, all of it, find the output word, see the difference, and back propagate the difference. This was the problem statement. So back propagating the statement, optimizing the loss, this is irrespective of whatever your problem definition is. Any problem, image problem, you do the same thing. NLP problem, you do the same thing. But the problem definition is that I will read the 4 letters, 4 words, and then predict the word which I have. So this is your problem statement, that I will read the first 4 letters or last 4 letters, or 4 letters on the left, 4 letters on the 4 words on the left, 4 words on the right, and this is the problem definition. So in here, that's what I asked you is, what should be your problem definition in such a kind of document? Obviously, if the problem definition is left and right 4 words, it is not going to work. You also know that. So the intuition that in case of a tabular data or a structured data, what should be my word embeddings definition, so that once I get the embeddings, I will have a very good quality of embedding, right? So if you put this document across the standard embedding algorithms, it will produce a very bad embedding and you cannot use it. We have already proven this in EY. We are doing this. Okay, we are not able to get proper embeddings. Therefore, any tabular data is made a separate project itself. So it is called document intelligence for forms and tables. Okay, DIFT. Okay, so this made a separate problem because of the nature of the data. So now you understood, Pulkit?
Yeah.
So still the homework remains. So you have to still find out, just means there is no problem solving, no coding, no math here. You have to just explain me that what is the problem definition you are trying to solve via machine learning. That will help to predict the embeddings of each word in the document. If you can give me a problem definition, that is enough.
Any kind of hint?
Hint means think. No, see, when I said you about that example, that when you see 1 or 2 seconds a news article, you are able to predict the context of the news article. I did not make this process out of thin air, right? I made out this example or this process out of the way how I learn as a human being, right? See, one thing I have said you earlier, I will say you now also. Machine learning is nothing different from human learning. So if you understand the way you learn or predict or classify or cluster anything, if you are clear about the process that you do it, then you can very easily convert that same process into a machine learning process, right? So like the example of clustering. Clustering means what? Keeping all things, similar things in a bucket, right? This is a, so you, if I ask you what is the algorithm of clustering, you will easily say it, right? You will tell that suppose I have a bag of apples, a very big bag of apples. Some apples are good, some are bad, some are very good. So how you will cluster? You will pick up an apple and you will predict its quality, and then you will put it in one bucket. So you will keep on doing this until there are purely 3 clusters available, right? If I ask you that do the same problem, solve the same problem via a code, will you be able to do or not? Yes, you will be able to do. It will be difficult, but you know the algorithm, how you do it. You have to just convert how you do it into code using if, else, while, for loop, all these things you have to do it. So it is nothing new, nothing out of the box, nothing exceptional, right? So everything here is how you do it. So I'll tell you, Pulkit, you as a human being, think that how can you make justice or define a problem in a bank statement. So ultimately, what do you want? Suppose there are 2 savings account. Sorry, let me open that again. Bank statement. Of one document you ask, they will say 100 things. Suppose this one. Okay. So in this one, the all the words 2003, not to, these are repetitive words. So suppose 1975 and 3314. So these 2 words should have very similar embeddings because they are some kind of reference, right? So the word 200, 21.25, 300, 100, this all should have very similar embeddings because they all belong to withdrawals. You're getting the idea, right? In case of sequential data like this data, that Tendulkar data, this 200 and 300 will be very different. But here it is same because they fall under the same column. So column might have something to do with the definition. So think about that way. So why I said 200, 21.5, 300, 100, 29, all are same, because I can see they are falling under withdrawals category. I can see that. How can you make the new algorithm see that? That is the question. Got it right, Pulkit?
Yeah, got it.
This kind of hint I gave you. So today I think the entire class is there, right? Tanmay is there, Vikram, yeah, all are there. Very good. Okay. Okay. Anybody else has any doubt?
I have lost a few classes which I couldn't able to cover up this week.
Okay. So try to cover that up. Okay. So I don't know if this class will be any meaningful to you, but still I'll try to make as much as possible.
Okay.
So we will learn today the most anticipated thing is word to wake. Right. So word to wake is kind of like the theory of relativity in NLP. Right. So it is so much important. Like theory of relativity in physics, how important it is, how big a turning point that was in the field of physics. Word to wake is kind of that in natural language processing. Right. So I said about skipgrams, right? So skipgrams was so word to vec follows skipgram problem definition. I just explained the skipgram. I'll just tell it again formally. Skipgram. So why this name is gram like this? This is some weight or something? No, no. So gram is like a phrase. Like a single word can be a gram. Two words can be also a gram. Okay. So you call it k gram, n gram. So n gram means n words together. So n gram. Okay. So gram you can for now analogize it as words only. Token or word. Gram and all of the same meaning. Okay, we'll see when we will talk about bigrams, digrams, trigrams. What is their importance that time? We'll talk about that. Okay, so it is telling that suppose I have a statement. I want a glass of orange juice. To go along with my cereal. With my cereal. Okay, so this is a sentence. Now, suppose we select a context. Now there will be two types of things you have to remember: context and target. Okay, context and target. So what is context? Context is a random word which we select. Say we selected orange. This is my context. Okay, so orange. Now what is target in skipgrams? Target is that plus minus 5 words. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Plus minus 5 words. This is plus 5 and this is minus 5. Plus minus 5 words. I choose any word. Not all the 5 words. I just choose any word from this defined window. So suppose I can target can be juice, because juice falls in the window of plus 5. Similarly, this one orange again, and this one can be glass. Glass falls in the window of minus 5. It can also be my. No, my won't be because my is 6. So it can be like go, and orange. So this is called skipgram. Skipgram means you take the context word and then define the window, that is plus or minus 5 words, and then select any one word from there. No need to select a sequence of words, only one word. Okay. So this is called skipgram model. What we saw bag of words model, right? Continuous bag of word model, in where we are telling that I want a glass of everything we are taking. Okay. So what is the benefit with this kind of model? It is faster because you only have to predict the target and the context, and which is each is only one word. Okay. Don't have 5 words together. Okay. So 5 words together means it is a sequence. So sequence prediction is much more difficult than just word to word prediction. So what we want to learn is a mapping from the context to some target. Okay. This is our main formula. Suppose this is the context and this is the target. So we want to learn a mapping with all with this. Okay, so context words, now like orange is one context word. Next time you can choose juice is another context word. You can select cereal is another context word. You can select glass is another context word. And now for orange, I can have 5 target words. For juice, I can have 5 more target words. Like here we have 3, right? So 5 we can have. For cereal, I can have again 5 target words. And for glass, I can have even 5 target words. So what I am building here? What am I building here? I am building a training data set. Training data set how? So this is context and this is target. So what is the, so this is the O of orange is the, what is that? It is the one hot encoding of orange. And I'm giving a target of juice, O of juice. Okay, orange and then juice. Again orange and then glass, O of glass. Again orange and O of go. Okay. Again then after this, what I took juice. So O of juice. And then what I am targeting? Orange. Now from juice to orange. Orange. Okay. Then again juice to cereal. Of cereal. So what I'm creating here? I'm creating a very long list of training data. Right? I'm creating a long list of training data. How will this be used? This will be like this. If you remember, embedding matrix multiplied by one hot encoding of context, okay, gives me the embedding value of context, which when put through a neural network helps me predict the target word, which is O of say T, target. Okay. Now this is the model. So I have in my left side, I have the one hot encoding of context, context word multiplied by the embedding matrix, gave me the random embedding value of the context word, which when pushed towards the neural network gave me the target of one hot encoding. Then I will see the error and I will propagate back. And I can have a huge data set like this, right? Only orange and juice gave me 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 data set. So imagine in the entire context, suppose you have 10,000 words. So how many training data you can have? You can have millions of training data. And all those millions of training data can be passed through this neural network and this embedding matrix. And by it will take 2-3 minutes or 5 minutes. After that, you will get a very beautiful embedding matrix. Got it, this one, guys? Any doubt? They're little new concepts, but you have to get the idea right. That is the trick. Okay, so now that we understand this, so now I'll come to this part only. So embedding matrix multiplied by the one hot encoding of context gives me the embedding of context when passed through a neural network gives me the one hot encoding of the target. Okay, so this one in this outside the output function, how it will be? If you remember the one hot encoding, okay, it is like a 10,000 cross 1 or 10,000 cross 1 size, right? Now how will it be? Will it be that this I'm talking about the output? So there will be 10,000 locations like this. Will it be 0, 0, 0, 0 and only one on one place? It cannot be, right? Because you're doing a lot of matrix multiplications here. So it cannot be like all 0 and in only one place 1 is there, which is the definition of one-hot encoding. So what will actually happen is that so many matrix multiplications you'll make. So you will get a 10,000 by 1 vector, but all will have some value. Negative value, positive value, 0 value. But it won't be like everything is 0 and only one place it is 1. So it will have like, this one will have 0.53 like this. Okay, this will have 0.88. This will have 1.53. Okay, it'll have minus 2.77 like this. So like these values it will have. Now, how do I consider, although this is a 10,000 cross 1 vector, it is the same size of a one-hot encoding vector, but how do I map this one to a particular target word, right? Because it is not following the one-hot encoding rule, right? So therefore what happens, we pass this through a function called softmax. Softmax. Okay. Now the softmax, what it does is, it takes all the values and squeezes it in such a way that all the values, if added together, will give me 1. That means this is a probabilistic function. That means whatever I have, so if I have 0.1 here, 0.1 here, then 0.00 something here, 1 here. So like this, I will have all the values. When I take their sum, this will be equal to 1.0. That is 1. It will have 1 value. So that means what? It gave me a probability distribution. So instead of having just random numbers of 10,000 cross 1, I now have again random numbers, but all these numbers are probabilities, not just numbers. Because when I add all of them, it gives me result as 1. So then the box with the highest number, suppose highest number is 0.43. All the other numbers here are less than this. Then we can tell that all the other numbers are 0. Okay, 0. And this, whatever was in the 0.43, that one we did at 1, and then all 0. So we could convert a vector with random numbers into a probability distribution, and from there we could get a one-hot encoding. Okay, so here and the end of the neural network, actually in this place there is a softmax function. The softmax makes the decision. Now the softmax function is a little tricky function. Like softmax is I don't know, I have not taught all these things, but the conditional probability that a target will exist given a context. This is the conditional probability. Softmax function is the conditional probability that a target will exist given a context is e to the power theta t transpose into e to the EC. EC means embedding by sigma e to e theta j transpose EC context. This is 1 to the size of the vocabulary. Here it is 10,000. So now what happened? Don't get intimidated by the function. Just forget it. This is what we want to know. How this is the mathematical equation. I said that one due to a reason. So that means what? Every conditional probability, every cell, every 10,000 cells, mark the denominator. We have to add all 10,000 values here because this is a sigma, right? So for every probability of each cell, I have to do this operation every time. So 10,000 times I have to do this. So it's a very, very costly process. So the matrix, the word embedding learning actually takes lot of time. Okay, this is how it was done earlier. But then in later time, there came much better algorithms which were much faster. So today, if today you go and see the code of a word to vec problem, you will see that they are not using this softmax anymore, right? So actually, softmax is asked to be avoided whenever there is a the output vector size is very large. If your output vector size is only three units, then it is pretty good function. But in word embedding, it will never be this small. Okay, it will be in millions, and it will take days of training. Okay, so that's why not favored. And nowadays, everybody has moved into a different kind of learning called negative sampling. Okay, negative sampling. I will tell about this, because this is what is now is going on, negative sampling. Okay, so before I start negative sampling, whatever I said makes any sense to you guys? Tanmay?
Yes. Yeah. Means, anyways, I have to go through once again.
Yeah. Shivanand?
Yes.
Okay. Vikram and Pulkit? Good? All good?
Yes, Vishwa.
Okay, very good. Okay, so negative sampling, before starting negative sampling, I want to show you something. So if you can see here, yeah. So this is an article which I will share with you guys. Okay, what to make from scratch with NumPy. Okay, so this article, after negative sampling is done, after negative sampling, what is left? That's it. After negative sampling, I will not tell you any more theory. Then what we will do is we will implement word2vec. Whatever I said until now, everything we will implement from scratch only using NumPy. So NumPy, you guys are aware, right? I am not using anything like Keras, TensorFlow, PyTorch, anything. I will just use NumPy, and we will implement word2vec from scratch. So this exercise will make the machine learning process very, 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 very clear to you. And also you will appreciate the linear algebra that you were reading for this many days. Okay. So you see the same thing is here, but he will be implementing this. This is a very good article actually. He'll be implementing this with only NumPy and Python, nothing else. So there is no chance that we will think that we don't know this, we don't know that. Okay. So it is all mathematics here. Just see all these partial derivatives. Okay. So this is one very, very important exercise that we will do. So it will start from mostly next class. So I will request all of you that at least from next class onwards, don't miss the classes for 2 or 3 classes. But like Tanmay, if you have your meetings are getting extended, then we can start our class at 10 o'clock also, not a problem.
Now for next week, it won't be a problem.
For next week, it will go very good.
Every alternate week means from my team to someone has to attend, right? So another week, another day.
Okay. Then very good. Then we can continue our 9:30 class only. So next week is very crucial. So don't miss the classes. Okay, because we will implement this, and this will be having a very good importance in your total machine learning experience, because you are doing everything from scratch and just using NumPy. So all the things that you learned, the only see dot products here, all this, nothing extra. You have all learned about this. Okay. Okay, guys. So any questions? Tomorrow I will start negative sampling, or today should I complete it? What do you think? If you say today you complete it, I'll complete today or next class.
Yes, Vishwa, we can have it.
You can have it. Very
Yeah.
good. Okay. Okay. Then let's go to negative sampling. Negative sampling. Okay. What is negative sampling? This is a very good trick actually to shorten the training time and achieve better results. Okay. So how does it work? So until now, what we saw, the context to target mapping. Okay. This is a training data we created. And in here, all were positive data. That means context and the target were actually true. Sorry. That is, context and targets were actually true. Means orange and juice were actually nearby. Orange and glass were actually nearby. So all of this data, okay, all of this data, so millions of data, training data, nothing was negative. Nothing was false. Everything was true. So now you tell me, like the famous say goes, failure is the pillar of success. Right? So if a person never encounters negative situation in life, only positive situations, will he be a better learner or the person who encounters both? Obviously, the person who encounters both the situations, negative and positive, will be a better learner. And the same thing goes here. Even though we are giving millions of training data, but we are not providing any negative training data. We are only telling that, oh, juice is near to orange, glass is near to orange, but we are not saying that king is away from orange. This thing we are not saying. Right? We are saying all positive. This negative one we are not saying. So it is very important to learn what goes with what and what does not go with what. Right? So if somebody tells you that the orange is a very good man, the orange is a very good man, you will immediately start laughing and tell you are mad. This is not possible. How a orange can be a man? This is negative sampling. Because you know orange is a fruit. Only knowing that orange is a fruit is not enough. You should also know that orange is not a man. Right? So what is what and what is not, that is also important. So negative sampling is all about that. So what we are doing, we are changing the problem definition a little bit. We are still using skip grams, but instead of only using positive samples, we are using positive and negative samples. So now this one is not used anymore. So what we are using? We are using context, target, still using context and target, but context is now divided into two parts. Okay. So like orange juice and target is true, 1. Orange king, target is 0, not true. So similarly, we continue all our million data set like this. So along with what is true, we also took what is false, right? So what is the steps? Just a minute. So what is the steps here? Randomly select a word, that is the context word. Look around a window of plus or minus 5 words. This plus or minus 5 is a you can also define it. Not necessarily it should be plus or minus 5 only. Pick up a word from the window. Inside the window, pick up a word. That is the positive. The 1. The target is 1. Within the window is a positive sample. Out of the window is a negative sample. Right? So this way you can create a lot of more training data, including positive and negative both. Okay, so now how many negatives and how many positives you will choose, that is depends on your problem or your corpus. So normally the rule goes that you should select k positives and k negatives, where k should be 5 to 20 if you have a smaller data set. If your data is small, or you can have a 2 to 4 window if you have a larger data set, right? So this k value is how many positive and negative for each context word should you take. For orange, take 5 positives, 7 positive, 7 negative. Then that means you have a smaller data set. For orange, if you are taking only 3 positive and 3 negative, that means you have a larger data set. And it is obvious, the larger the data, the quicker it will be done, right? So now our problem definition has changed. That's why our softmax has also changed. Our first softmax was previously telling that given the context C, what is the target T? Okay. Now the question has changed that given the context C and T, what is the target? Target is like Y. So Y, this is Y, sorry. This is Y and this is C and T. Given the context word C, what is the target T? Given the context C and T, what is the target Y? Okay. So now what happens? For each word, I have to only train 2k times, k plus k, right? K positive and k negative for each word. I'm not training as a whole now. I'm just training each word for k positives and k negatives, and that is enough. So my the softmax function, the probability conditional probability function, the sigma in the denominator, okay, is still there, but it has converted j is equal to, earlier it was j is equal to 1 to 10,000, now it is j is equal to 1 to k only. Okay, for each word k times. I have to calculate the k only 2k times, sorry, 2k. I have to calculate the denominator only 2k times, not 10,000 times. But I have to calculate it for each context. So like orange is a context. So for this context only k times. For another context also k times. But k is much less than 10,000. Therefore, the total time taken reduces drastically. Okay, so that is the benefit of this negative sampling. One is it gives us another view of data, that orange is a fruit and orange is not a man. This is one. Second, that the training also time also decreases very fast. Okay, so because we are only now doing 10, means we are, suppose we are using 1 million, so each 1 million context words, then for each sample in this 1 million, we will have k times we will calculate the probability. So there are 1 million samples, but for each sample the denominator is only calculated from 1 to k. But in the other case, it was what? It was 1 million samples, and for every sample it was between sigma was from 1 to 10,000. Okay, now it is only 1 to k. So although this is also big, but this denominator factor reduces very fast. Okay, so that's why this becomes a very fast solving problem. Okay. Yeah, I think that's it. So there are a lot of word models, word embedding models, which are already trained on more than 1 billion data. Okay, so one is glove. I think you have already seen that. BERT, Okay, there are many good word embedding packages now available in the internet. So mostly we don't need to train. That is what I always said you, right? So they means as a data scientist, you don't have to know any of this. You will just use glove and BERT and you will solve your problems. But it is not a long run. You'll do it for some days, some years in your career, but after some time you'll stop. Okay, so when you solve, actually you may never use all these things. Whatever I said here, all these things you will never use. You will directly use glove embeddings and just solve your problem. But it is much good to have idea about this, because like example I'm telling, I am now doing the research on knowledge graphs, right? So I want to read a Wikipedia article and dynamically generate a knowledge graph. Sachin is a cricketer, cricketer is a game is like which gives entertainment. So this is like a connected knowledge graph, right? So I want to create this knowledge graph with the help of deep understanding and of embedding, word embeddings and natural language processing. So in this situation, I will need in-depth understanding of how these things work. But if I'm just solving a classification problem or a clustering problem, I can directly use glove embedding or BERT embedding and solve my problem. So there are two types of choices. So what choice you want to do, that is up to you. But both are data scientists only. One is half data scientist, one is full data scientist. Okay, so I think this our word embeddings theory classes is over, and from the next class we will start that one what I said. Anyone has any questions, any doubts, any queries? You understood the negative sampling thing? Yeah, I understand at a very in-depth level, mathematical level, you may have still doubts, but that's fine. We will talk about that later. But theoretically, you understood or not?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, then I think cool. So we finished this theory today itself. So from next class onwards, we will solve that, and don't forget to don't forget or miss the class. Okay. Okay, then I'm stopping the recording then. Good night, guys.
Good night, Vishal.
Good night.